all of you, and leave the platform to Susanne. She will tell a bit more.
Yeah. Yeah, for those of you who should not know who I am, I think most of you probably do. I'm the director of Birka, which is a residency space on Bornholm, and this is the website that you're seeing here with some pictures, so you get a little bit, because I know there's quite a lot of you who has not been to Birka yet. It could come there. So I am just really happy to see so many interesting people here today, and I'm pretty sure I'm proud, and I'm also very excited to be saying welcome today, in the hope that we will be here with an open mind and allow ourselves to wonder a little bit and take questions what we are doing and why we are doing it, and maybe walk away with some new ideas and some new thinking. This is the process, actually, that we have been created this archive project with. Questioning, wondering, and getting together to exchange. It's a process that started a year ago with having meetings with different people and inviting them together. For those of you who know me, for a dinner in my space. This is a new concept I'm doing, dinner conversations, to form the essential points of this project that then later was lucky enough to get funding from the Bikuben Foundation to be realized. And this was back in May. So we've been moving a little bit quickly here because we really wanted to take we were on the move, so we wanted to push it forward. First, there was a lot of artist conversation that I had last year, not the least with Charlotte Østergaard, who was here and wrote an article for the publication. And also Lin Lee, we had some discussions around how to archive. And then I had some meetings also with Laura Louise Schultz, who should have been here, but unfortunately was sick. And Cecilie Ullerup and Karen Vedel, who's going to do the first presentation. We had some, because I was very keen on, or we were keen on having, that we wanted to have an academic insight into how we were discussing archiving, because we didn't know so much about what we were doing. So, and then not least, Dance Historie with Carolina and Andrea stepped in and have become very important consultants for the whole project because they were already working with archiving in a very interesting ways. So thank you very much to all of you for all these inputs and valuable thoughts that you have shared with Birka and with us. And then, of course, to it all, Bente has been there and stepped in to be the manager of the whole thing, which has made it so easy for me, and it's so easy to stand here today because Bente has taken care of editing the book, planning the whole seminar, and doing all the practical stuff. And that's and that is probably a first for me to do that. So that's it feels a little bit strange, but big thank you. And just to remind us, because nothing happens in a vacuum, everything happens when you're together doing what we're doing. But it is strange for me to be standing here in another sense and welcoming to a seminar on archiving, because I was never, I have to admit, very much into either documenting or nor to the history of the performing arts work. I have to be honest about that. I was formed by the deconstructivism and the feminist thinking of the 80s, where questioning archives and museums was quite essential to core of a new thinking. And we digged into at that time, and still are, into the lost stories. After recovering with some pain that history was formed by a Western male gaze. So I've always been a little bit wary of anything that tried to state any truth or define any kind of history, because I knew it was only going to be a bit of that history anyway. So this was why I kind of stepped a little bit away from doing anything along these lines. So my way into archiving has been trying to avoid these mistakes of claiming any kind of truth. But I also realized that there was a story worth telling about what happened at Birka, and also this thing about taking new land on artistic research and what was going on in that area. And probably also I got older, and I wanted to preserve her story that I had been part of. And realizing that by not finding a way to tell it, I would end up being a gatekeeper of that story. And then only what I happened to remember and found important would stay. So I really stepped in to try to see how could this be done in a more democratic way, where it was not only my voice, but all the voices that have been visiting Birka and worked there, that kind of became a part of the platform. And also something has been happening in the last couple of years. It seems like documentation and archiving has become a very integrated part of a lot of artistic processes and presentations even. And I think this is a very interesting movement, and therefore also might influence the organizations that we have around not only Birka but all of us in the future. And this is one of my points of focus for today. Are we moving in a new direction in how we integrate archiving and in performing arts in general and in our society? So are there new trends going on here that we could actually cultivate and learn from? But before we get into that, let me give you a short introduction to what we have actually been doing. For this is a threefold project, in case somebody has not realized that. We have, and this is the launch also today, official launch of the digital archive that we have been doing at Birka. So this was the first thing we did to do. Yeah, Bent is taking us through some of this. Here you can see the archive. I will go a little bit more into it in a little while, but it's also the publication is also being launched today. So this, and then we have the seminar. So here we have the publication. So that is Bent, of course, edited. And I hope you all got a copy of that. I was pretty insistent to give a copy out there. And maybe we should also thank Nede Banke for doing such a beautiful work on the layout of the book. My quest from the point of Birka as a residency center was on how we could create formats in which knowledge was transferred to be of inspiration for new artistic research. How could Birka support the assembly of collective knowledge in the field that we were working in? We decided that the starting point of anything we did in the project was, of course, maybe to collect data. The discussion in the initial process phase of the project was to focus on what would be valuable to collect and document. And if the aim was to transfer knowledge, artistic knowledge to others, how could we consistently be gathering this material? And how could the knowledge that we presented in a way, be presented in a way that was true both to the ephemeral and the physical nature of the research? This is still my biggest question, because a digital platform is not very ephemeral or very physical. So we always have to remember that it's only a fragment of something when we have a digital platform. It has been an important objective that the archive that we have been creating where did I go? Should be non-hierarchical, of course. That we didn't want to state any kind of hierarchy in how we did. So you will see in the beginning of the archive that Bente goes back to it, that it will always, the front pictures are changing all the time. So it's always mixing up together, so there's no hierarchy in it. And that the focus of the archive should be on collective ideas rather than on promoting authorship. So you will also see here that there's no names on artists or on projects on the pictures. We wanted people, this was a way to go into a more sensorical kind of way into it, to be occupied by a picture somehow. The archive is also influenced by an awareness that artists have the right to self-define their work and to decide how much they want to share, since we are acutely aware that sharing artistic research can be vulnerable. And at the same time, we were also interested in helping artists to be more precise in formulating their research purposes. This was, of course, the academics who made us, but what are the research questions? Okay, maybe we should have a little focus on that. As well as embracing their own strategies of documenting, because there's a big variation to how artists think about documenting. And this for us this is also why it was so interesting to go to Norway to listen to what you're doing about helping artists to document in different ways. So the aim of the digital archive we created is not so much to store as it is to make visible. It is to share and to reactivate knowledge arising through artistic research processes at residencies. This is a way to limit it a bit, that we said, okay, we are not taking responsibility for the whole area. Now we stay focused on the residency, and the residencies are doing the main focus on those residencies is to do artistic research. So it is an attempt to ease and strengthen the connectivity between artists working with similar themes, location, and or methods. So this is what we have tried to, I don't know if you've seen enough of it. What is the idea here with this is that if you go down here, you can see the question. We decided, we have different residency types and art forms. I was going to go through the, and then we have the different questions, but you can always go in and look at that yourself. We have defined some very precise, the self-definition of artistic practice, of course the title also. Artists are putting their own material in here. This is the idea that it's an open source where artists get a login and put their mechanism. They can get help, of course. So it's a description of their own findings. It's not rocket science. But then we said, what are you most curious about or invested in your own practice? This for me has been a very opening question to pose. And then the next, if you go down here a little bit, is that's the research question. What questions did you bring to investigate, and what questions are you leaving with? Also to say that research questions are always changing. We're not set and it's not locked in stones what we're working with. And then this question came up that I actually think was Adrian and Carolina who suggested. What transforming creative moments did you experience at the residency? What is actually the things that fuels our mindset? By pladser heroppe. The idea is actually that you can get lost here. The main thing that we worked with here is this thing about keywords and research locations, which is particular, at least for me at Bornholm, that there's a connectivity between artists who want to research at some of the same locations around the island. And this way you can actually connect who has been working on a specific place and what have they been doing. But we can also see, we can also go into keywords. Is anybody else work with age, for example?
Oh, let's see.
I'm not sure that there is more, but you can go, no, it's only Camilla. But anyway, yeah, but if you go back to the main, but there's photos, and I have started a little bit later than when Camilla was there to do interviews with all the artists. So that's also part of the archive, that there will be an interview with each artist. And you can always find, the artist can put in more material for you. But if you will please go up to the main side. Just to say that, archive side. It's just to say that in case you're not into this getting lost and getting into all the different kind of artistic, yeah. Just to say that we also did put up for the more rational minds of us, that you can actually search, you can always see different kind of artists and go in and find if there's an artist that you would like to look into. And there is one artist who have actually had two posts in there, so you can also see if they have been doing several artists. There's also a possibility of going into specific art forms. If you're specifically interested in artists who have done video, for example, there's 4 of those, or transdisciplinary. So you can go in and search in all different kind of ways, and this is the main thing about how we build the archive. So now we have to move on to the program. And I just want to say that I hope you have all had the program with you, and I think we have tried to work with putting different angles into this topic of archiving. And the first part of it is to get a little bit broader perspective and understanding about what is archiving and documentation, what are the definitions, are different initiatives. We have some really important and great people to talk to you about that. Then after lunch we will go into the documentation practice of the artist, and we have 3 different, also very exciting artists of different age and discipline to tell you about their personal way of archiving, and there will be a chance to have discussions after that. And then we go into discussion of so this is the documentation part. Then we go into the sharing, which I think is the one that we need to take responsibility of as residency centers. So there will be a panel with me and 4 other residency centers on what is our responsibility and what can we do to support artists in these activities. And then we come to the exciting part of reactivating that Carolina and Andrea will the other way around, will do on how can we actually use these archives and what can they be used from. So this is, because if they're just dusty, hiding away, you know, we can't really, it's the interesting part is if we can use them in any way. And then of course in the end we have these 3 witnesses that Bente has been talking about that we will end up with a final open discussion together. Yeah, the program is tight and I've already used too much time. So you have to discuss in the breaks, and for now Bente will take it in the queue.